All right, guys, welcome back to the Pursuit of Math. Today we have a perfect guest, Justin Compton, IFBB Pro and Pro coach. So first I wanted to start off by just asking you how your day is and what you got going for the day today.
Oh, today is going to be a lazy day, man. I don't have anyone competing today, and usually Saturdays, if it's like off season, like as in no shows, I'm usually either out offshore fishing or doing nothing pretty much, like just chill and hang out with the family. But I do have people competing here in North America soon. That's going to be the next big weekend, so I've already done my check-ins and whatnot for this morning. But other than that, it's going to be a pretty laid back day.
Nice. And you're in Florida, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So y'all got some nice fishing out there.
Um, that's a debatable topic nowadays. I don't know what exactly, it depends on where you're at. Like where I'm at, it used to be like 5 years ago when I moved here, it was like off the chain,
Yeah.
like good. And I don't know what the hell has happened over the last 5 years. There's different people with their speculations, whether El Nino years and stuff like that. Um, but like it's not what it used to be. So to be fair, like that's one of the reasons why I live in this area is because like Miami is really good, but Miami is like a lot more expensive to live there.
Hmm.
St. Augustine is really good, but if you go to St. Augustine, you're running like 80 miles each direction. And I really don't want to do that either. So this was like the perfect spot. But the only issue is everyone with a damn John boat can make it out to the reefs.
Hmm.
So I think it's just overfished at this point.
I see. Okay, so
Yeah, between that and the commercial, it's kind of taking the fun out of it. Like I'm actually looking to sell the boat right now.
oh really?
Yeah,
It's not like it used to be, I guess.
it's not like, man, it's like I was gonna go out on Thursday and I literally just said I don't feel like it. And that's not like me to say that. And I was just like, I really don't feel like going out and clean it because the cleanup afterwards, like 2 hours of like physical hard ass work cleaning that up.
Yeah.
It's like I'm gonna go out there and just beat myself up in the sun, probably to catch one or two little fish. I was like, I'm just not here for that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to work with my friend like on a fishing boat, but I wasn't really into fishing. It was more just because like he wanted like dudes, like younger dudes, like that like have muscle, I guess, to like
Were you
help
like
them out.
deckhand?
Yeah, and then just like the what you said, like just helping fucking clean up at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, and just like sleeping on there and shit. And
Yeah. Mates and deckhands, maybe repairs or maintenance if you know how to do that kind of stuff.
yeah, I was kind of just doing whatever they told me. So
I
shit.
would actually, if I could find a boat that had Starlink on it that would allow me to like do all my client work, I would do that on the side just because I love being out there so much.
Hell
Like I
yeah.
can handle the repairs. I would want to do the actual fishing though, because I feel like I'm past the whole being a mate part.
Yeah. Wait, so
Like I've done that.
when you're out there, you can't like you don't have internet, you can't like reply to your clients and stuff.
It depends. Like when I go out of my, so like when I'm going out on my boat and I'm leaving out of the St. Lucie Inlet, what I'll do is like I'll look and I'll see who's supposed to check in today,
Hmm.
and I'll like usually you don't start catching your bait until the sun rises anyways. So I'll sit around, maybe like 3 to 5 miles out, and I still have good cell phone service. And if somebody hasn't checked in by like 11 o'clock, I'm sorry, but like it's 11 o'clock, man. So I'll just blast on out to the deeper water at that point. But
Yeah.
I hang out and I wait, and I'm just like, okay, they're here. Usually I don't have that issue. Usually I just wait till everyone's checked in and then I'll go out to deeper water. But depending on who I'm with, a few of the guys I fish with have Starlink. So if they have Starlink, we can go 300 miles off, which we don't go that far. That's a bit ridiculous. But like
Yeah.
you could technically go that far off and you still have internet and cell phone service.
Damn, yeah. That's dope. Yeah, if people don't check in like early enough, it's like, all right, well, I have a day to do too. So
Well, it's if it's off season stuff, like I always tell people, like, give me 12 hours if it's off
yeah,
season. But if it's prep, I like to be like right there on top of it, especially right at the end of prep.
yeah, for
Like,
sure.
I don't want you to wait more than like 2.5 hours during prep. If you're like 4 weeks out or closer, because as a matter of fact, I've got two guys going right now that their body seems to change excuse me, like they're changing like every single day. So
Mm,
like the food is constantly going up or it's going down. I got to put it on hold, or better yet, I'm just taking a peek to make sure that we're still going the right direction. So it's like it's probably a pain in the ass to them to have to check in every day, but like at the same time, I hope they know that I'm doing this like not to just annoy them, to make them get
Yeah.
up and take pictures every day, but this is for your good and my good to make sure that we're dead on point.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, I don't know, if I were them, I would appreciate that you're like putting in the effort to, like,
Yeah.
almost are showing like that you want it just as bad as they do, you know?
Yeah, and usually I have one guy. He gets up at like 5 a.m. and I don't get up that early, but I'm usually up between 7 and 9. So I mean, by the time he's got a little ritual that he does in the mornings. I don't want to say ritual, but like the way he like kind of preps himself to do his cardio and drinks and whatnot in the morning. He usually doesn't have the first meal down till like 7:30 anyways. So like at most the first meal will stay the same, then we'll change accordingly from there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so I wanted to get a little bit into like your personal story and how you started bodybuilding. So originally, how'd you get into lifting, and then like maybe how did that change more so into like serious bodybuilding?
Um, I'm gonna be brief on this. Just the only reason
Yeah,
I'm gonna be brief on this is because I've went over like the full shebang, like
yeah,
on other shows before. Like the one on muscle and strength kind of tells like the full, like I guess you would say like the Justin Compton story.
yeah,
But no, to kind of make it brief, I really didn't do a whole lot as a kid, and it's not because there was just nothing to do in my area. I'm not athletically talented. Like
mm,
I like football, baseball, basketball. No, like it's just not a thing. Like I would I would embarrass myself. I would beyond embarrass myself. There would be YouTube videos about me still to this day if I would have tried to be doing that kind of stuff. So I kind of just found a niche, and my parents had picked up a total gym. That's though that is probably older than you are, if I'm being honest. Chuck Norris used to endorse that way back in the day.
damn,
And honestly, for the average guy who just simply wants to like be fit, it would probably get the job done if you know how to utilize it and know how to create the resistance correctly. And ironically enough, when I got sore off the first workout, which I think it was like a 3 hour workout, because I was 14 years old. I didn't know any better.
yeah,
It didn't give like a video instruction or anything. I'm just like making exercises up with this thing as I go. And I just felt like this immense soreness the next day, like the first time you ever worked out in your life.
yeah,
Most people at that point will be like, no, I'm good. I don't want to feel that ever again.
yeah,
I actually liked it. So I feel like that's like kind of the sick side of bodybuilding, is like we like that pain, we like that soreness in a way. And I kind of just evolved from there, like just trying to continue my education. Well, I think because I didn't have any education at all about bodybuilding or weightlifting. So I started from scratch, and everything I read was through articles, online boards, stuff like that, people that was like highly respected. And that's how I got my base start until I actually went into a gym, which was about a year and a half later when I actually joined a public gym.
mm,
And then I started learning from like the top level guys in there, and then I just kind of evolved from there. And then I did my first show at 18, which I really didn't have any intentions on doing that. It was one of my high school best friends told me he was going to do it, and I was like, well, fuck it, I'll do it too, man. Like we'll just do it for fun. And then that kind of turned into a competition amongst us.
mm,
I didn't intend for it to be that way, but like I think Brian deep down wanted to beat me, and I was like, okay, well now we're getting with. We never had beef with this either, by the way.
yeah,
Like win or lose, I knew there was going to be no beef. Like we were still going to go right back to the normal friendship. But like we did have like some shit talk back and forth, and I did beat him at that show, and I went on. He went on to compete more as well, but I went on, and I mean, you can kind of look at my contest history from there. I did 6 more shows as a teenager because I think it was more so a fact that I found something I was actually good at.
mm,
Like I wasn't good at any other thing athletically. So I was good at this and I stuck with it. And then I kind of gave it up a little bit. I don't want to say I gave it up. I didn't really give it up in college. I had some issues in college. I had something called Osgood slaughter in my knee that basically I couldn't train legs for a very extended period of time without pain. And I said, well, I guess, and by the way, men's physique hadn't came out yet. So like that wasn't an option. And because the original men's physique guys didn't have like really big legs anyways. Nowadays, I know they're looking for a little bit more of a balance, but
yeah,
I couldn't, men's physique wasn't out. So I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to be the big guy in college, and that's all I'm going to be. And then when that pain went away, I was able to train. I just walked into the gym, trained legs pain free, and actually went heavy too. And decided I was going to do a show in 16 weeks. And then
Hell
my
yeah.
legs kind of grew into the show, and I won that show. And then it was kind of all she wrote.
Hell yeah. So you, if I'm not mistaken, you turned pro in 2012, right?
Yeah,
So, like the year before, I think you were 13th.
yeah.
So what was like the big difference between those 2 years in terms of
Well,
your,
let's rewind a little bit further. I was second place at junior nationals in
okay,
2011, and I was 13th at nationals.
right.
And the only reason you see that big of a discrepancy in the placing was I was way, way the hell off at nationals.
Mm,
Like, I truly believe if I could have brought my junior national look to nationals, it probably would have been in the top five,
mm,
maybe top seven at worst. But I didn't, and I got exactly what I deserved at that show. Like, to be honest, like I was a little bit embarrassed to go on stage. I wanted to pull out. Like, I wasn't stupid enough to look in the mirror and realize like this is a winning physique or this is a first call out physique. Like, I knew it wasn't right. But I was like, if you pull out now, well, these judges are going to remember you in the future. I was like, you're just going to have to go. Like, I kind of knew I was going to get my ass kicked before I even walked on stage. So I was with a different coach. I'm just going to kind of smile about that because the ones out there who knows. If they don't, I'm not going to start shit. But that was not Fakhri who prepped me for that show. And me and him linked back up right after that. And then I won nationals the following year.
okay. Hell
So
yeah.
I feel like like genuinely I could have finished somewhere between like fifth to seventh if I would have been on. But like if you were to just compare those pictures from Nationals 2011 to Junior Nationals 2011, it was a night and day different physique.
Mm.
I
And
was
what,
actually around the same weight, but I genuinely feel like I lost muscle and I was holding more body fat and water. So
mm,
I went backwards in a lot of ways.
I see. So to touch on a little bit of like your first experience with coaches, who were some of the like best coaches that you had that kind of mentored you and kind of developed your knowledge as a younger
Um,
bodybuilder?
I don't want to say that anyone necessarily mentored me because I never really was one to ask questions, but instead,
Mm,
I would ask the question, but I would also give myself the answer most of the time as well. Because, like, I was someone who, again, I never really asked a lot of questions because, like, the guys that I was working with, Fakhri was the primary guy that I worked with, and I knew how much workload that he has. So I'm not going to ask him, why am I using citrulline? Why am I using glutamine? Why am I using test? Why am I doing any of this stuff? Like, I was like, this is the part where you need to be a big boy, put your pants on, and figure this out yourself. Like, he's giving you the blueprint. If you want to know why, I knew the guy had like probably 300, two to 300 clients. It's like he doesn't have time to answer bullshit questions.
yeah.
My job was to simply take that plan, unless there was an issue, something that like my body wasn't cooperating with, which it did cooperate with everything. I was like, unless there's an issue with that plan, my job is to just execute that. And that's what I did. But at the meantime, though, I didn't just take that lightly, though. I would take note to things like what he would change and how my body would respond to it. And I also had the pictures as documentation as well. And I'm kind of thinking, like, okay, we did this and XYZ happened. We did that, XYZ happened. And I was able to kind of self coach myself essentially after that. You know, there were certain things that I felt like whenever I branched off into self coaching, and there were certain things that it was a little bit unfamiliar territory for me with. There was things that I did on my own that I was never taught in the past that I just kind of wanted to tamper with because at that point in my life, that was after 2013. And, you know, my off season was going great, but off season doesn't mean anything. You know, that's what you put on the stage is what matters, especially back then. Nowadays, you can be an influencer and you can make a lot of money. And, you know, you can be a social media bodybuilder.
Yeah,
But
for
you know,
sure.
back in that time, like you had to actually win shows to get notoriety and actually get attention and make money. So I figured I finished fifth at the Chicago Pro, and I'm like, well, you know, maybe I'm going to be like a fourth or fifth place guy, and that's as far as I'm going to get. So worst case scenario, if I lose the next show, who really cares?
Yeah.
Life didn't get worse. You know, it can only get better from here. So I did try some new methods, and I did try experimenting around with just different things. When I say experimenting around, you know, I'm not talking about any chemical enhancements because we had that down like that. We knew what worked for me. So but I did do some different dietary methods. I changed my diet very, very frequently throughout that prep because I feel like with the dietary methods that I was doing differently, my body was changing at a more of a rapid pace. Now, whether that be good or whether it be bad, I mean, the thing is, like, I'm not going to say it's good or bad because I genuinely think had I have stayed with Fakhri that year, I probably would have still looked very similar to how I did. I don't think he didn't drop the ball on me ever. So like, and I know they're probably going to catch hate in the comments because of his recent
It's like AI thing.
dilemma. Yeah,
Yeah.
for lack of better words, dilemma. And that doesn't change his relationship with what we had. I don't know. I'm not even going to comment on that. But like, I know he did right by me, and that's all I can really say.
Yeah.
So, um, I mean, I feel like he's a smart guy, and whatever he's doing right now, he's going to be successful with that at the same time. But what, okay, I got a little bit derailed on that. What was that original question about
It was,
coaching, right?
yeah, it was more so like I asked you like what were like the best coaches like you kind of learned from and developed, but you were saying that
Um,
you didn't ask a lot of questions.
I didn't ask a whole lot of questions. The first guy who ever actually prepped me ever was Jason Theobald.
Oh,
You Scooby prep?
yeah, I know Jason.
Jason prepped me for like 1 week, and it was probably because he would have definitely done longer, but it was because I was a control freak back then. You know, I still
Mm,
am a control freak.
yeah.
I like to have control of all aspects of my life, and it was very hard for me to give that up
Mm,
to allow someone else to come in and tell me what to do and how to eat and how to train. So Jason did a peak week with me for the Mr. Cincinnati, where I feel like I probably looked my all-time best as a natural bodybuilder. And it was a very different approach than what I had ever used. And I was very skeptical, but I said, this is your last show as a teenager. This is going to be your last show as a natural. So why not try it and see what happens? And he nailed it. And I was probably one of Jason's first few clients as well. So that actually worked out really well. And I will say the biggest thing I learned in that process was how much carbs my body could actually handle.
mm,
Like it was a significantly higher amount. I had my protein way too high, my carbs way too low. And whenever he got that balance right, my body just kind of changed for the better and it worked out good. So can't complain on that front at all. And then I worked with Shelby, and Shelby taught me. Shelby was 2010. Shelby kind of taught me how to dig deep, if that makes sense. Because again, Jason didn't have me he just had me for a week.
right.
How hard can you dig in a week?
Yeah.
Like your digging is done at that point. Your prep work is done. It's putting the finishing touches on.
Yeah.
Shelby had me for the full contest prep, and he kind of taught me that like, you may have thought you were lean, but you're not lean. Like he pushed me to the point to actually truly getting into contest shape. He did it keto style, and I realized, that's not exactly the best look for me. But I will say the biggest thing I took from that is learning how to mentally toughen the fuck up.
Yeah.
Because I had to go through college. I'm doing 2 hours of cardio a day, almost 2 hours, and I am on zero carbs. I'm functioning very minimally, like, and I'm a guy. I didn't start drinking caffeine, coffee. Like I didn't do all that stuff at 20. I think I was like 22. I wasn't doing any of that then. So like I'm just sitting here like running on empty, getting things done. And it just taught me how to be stronger and like how to push through hunger pain, how to push through tiredness and realize like there's still work to be done. You don't get to go lay down and take a nap. You have to keep going. So I feel like that was my biggest learning curve through Shelby was to be able to teach me that, you have more in the tank. Um, and then I went with Fakhri, and he didn't let off the gas as far as like pushing me, which was a good thing because, we nailed it. But he also taught me that my body was even more carb tolerant. So we went through that prep with a significant amount of carbs, and I showed up full, and my physique was like a night and day different look. So I would say between the three of those as a combination, that would have been. I don't want to call them mentorships because again, I didn't really ask questions. Like, um, I didn't get too involved in their lives. They didn't get too involved in my lives or anything like that. I was just taking note to like what was being put on paper and how it was affecting my body.
I see.
And, later on, I did work with Jansen in 2016 for the Arnold. And if I'm just being honest, and this is not me throwing a bash out there, I didn't really learn any. I mean, I learned kind of what not to do during that prep, and that's not me trying to be mean or anything either. The final week it kind of threw things off really, really bad, for a lack of better words, and ultimately ended up costing me probably a couple of placings that year, because the previous year I had beaten Josh and I'd beaten Cedric as well. And then 2 weeks later, I ended up getting ahead of Josh. And personally, I think I should have been ahead of Cedric as well, but like that's irrelevant. I didn't bring my best look to the stage that year. So it is what it is at that point. But I went back to coaching myself and I ended up winning 2 more shows that year.
Hell yeah. Wait, just curious, was it a burger and fries?
What do you mean?
Oh, with Jansen?
Oh, no, 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 no.
Okay.
No, that wasn't what it was. It was literally like a peaking protocol with water and whatnot.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. We pulled a little bit too hard on that, needless to say.
Okay. Yeah, I've just heard he would like I guess like cheat meals kind of for refeeds, and then like obviously.
Maybe so. I can't really speak because like when me and him were friends, we got along. I didn't really like ask him. Like it was something that like I just felt like there's something that a lot of bodybuilders need to understand. Like whenever they see their favorite bodybuilder eating XYZ, it doesn't mean shit to you. Like it shouldn't mean shit to you. It's pure entertainment only. If someone tells you this is what I'm taking, that's pure entertainment to you. That's not advice to you. So like I never really asked him, or I never asked Fakhri. I never asked anyone. I mean, I had a relationship with Hani. Meanwhile, he's still coaching Phil Heath as Mr. Olympia. And there was never a point in time where I'm like, what's Phil taking? Because it's not relevant to
Yeah.
like what my life is. So I never asked those questions with people. So like I can't say what Matt did or did not do with other people in regards to food, but I think he knew that I was a guy that didn't do like burgers and fries and contest prep. So I feel like if he knew if he tried to like tell me to do that mentally, I'm probably going to fight him on it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I wanted to get a little bit into like the coaching side of things, and then also like your career advancing as a pro. So I wanted to know like where the line is between eating enough for new growth and like simply just getting fat, because I know that you like to push food like a lot. So I'm kind of curious as to like what markers or like where you draw the line.
This is going to kind of vary from one person to the next, because I also, if I have a long period of time to work with people, like for example, I'm not going to name names because I hate putting a name to a face when I'm talking about like it's kind of like, I know I'm not a doctor and I'm not saying I have to go by HIPAA law, but like at the same time I treat it like that because I feel like it's personal privacy.
Right.
But like I've got one guy right now that I would probably put a cap on his off season at the moment, because he's not fat by any means, but he is a little bit smoother. But I also know how rapidly he gets in shape.
Mm,
Like I know for a fact that if I let this guy go another 5 to 10 pounds, and he also holds on to muscle too. Like he doesn't just strip the muscle right back off. So I've worked with him long enough to know that. So for him, he's still got abs. They're a little bit on the softer side of things. But then I also have guys who, like I took on a new guy like here recently, that he's not going to be a competitor, but like his goals, he does a lot of photo shoots, a lot of marketing stuff. So with him, I have to tread on thin ice.
yeah.
It's like I know that this man makes a living off of his body and off of his physique. So if I push the food too high and I get him fat, that's very counterproductive to what he hired me to do. So it kind of just varies from one person to the next. Or if you say, hey, I want to be somebody's coming at me at 190 pounds and they say, hey, my ultimate goal is I want to be a heavyweight bodybuilder and I want to turn pro as a heavyweight. I'm going to try to keep your body fat in check along the way, but this is going to be a long journey. It's going to be a long process because we're talking like 30 plus pounds of muscle here. It's going to be added. So I don't want you to get fat, but at the same time, there's going to be points where I'm pushing up and I'm going to say, okay, now we're going to hold, and then we may even do a mini cut and scale back, and then we're going to push up again. It's not going to be a linear curve of just going upwards on the scale, and the same thing for cutting as well. It's not going to be a straight downward curve.
For sure. And when you are pushing food, is there ever a time when maybe like glucose gets into a like maybe not so ideal range, but you kind of understand that you're pushing food, so it might get a little higher? Like let's like
Well, yeah, but I also try to micromanage that as well, because like I have people. This is going to become surprising to a lot of people, but I have had guys at the pro level who do not use GH. So that is a thing, and I know there's going to be people out there that say that's impossible, and those are the same people that probably take 5 grams and still can't win a regional level show.
yeah.
So think about that before you guys make your comments. Um, yeah, I just kind of shot him down really quickly on that. But anyways, if you're not using GH, you're probably going to be you're much less likely to be insulin resistant.
Yeah.
Now, I have seen guys who can use, 10 IU GH and not have a glucose factor. Like it's just they stay in the double digits. They don't crack triple digit numbers at all. I've seen that. So generally speaking, I'll ask people once we get past like 4 to 5 units, and I do have some people even like at 4 units, they'll start seeing like 115, 120, 125 fasted. And I
Yeah.
don't like that. So that's when we're going to start managing it in different ways. And I'm sure you can kind of get the idea of where I'm going with that. So I always give them the option though. I'm like, hey, we could pull the GH out and you probably won't have this problem to worry about. Obviously, your results are going to slow down a little bit to some extent. Or we can add this in and balance this out, and then we can just kind of keep pushing from there. But either way, I don't want them to have like high glucose for like long periods of time. Like if you're talking like you have high glucose for 6 months, like when I say high glucose, let's just say like 100 to 150.
100. Yeah.
You're not going to damage your health at 6 months, but like you're not bodybuilding for 6 months, you're bodybuilding for probably a decade plus. So if you're running high glucose, like it probably ain't, it's going to continue to get higher. So if you're at 100 now, as you get bigger, other things start to increase, food starts to increase, insulin resistance starts to increase, those numbers are probably going to continue to get worse. So over the long term, you're going to be scarring your cardiovascular system, and you're also going to be damaging your kidneys. So I want to try to stay on top of that early in someone's career rather than trying to correct something later once the damage has already been done.
Yeah, for sure.
And once it's done, I'm honestly not sure that there's a way to truly reverse that damage. Because again, like the sugar, that's why you see diabetics, they'll lose hands, they'll lose feet.
Yeah.
That's usually what's going to, it affects their eyesight too. So it's an uncontrolled diabetic. And I've seen bodybuilders with their numbers in the 300 and 400s before. And I'm like, dude, just no. Like, I know you feel okay right now, but no, this is not going to be okay. And like, I've pretty much had to put my foot down and say, like, either you can do what I tell you to do, or, we can part ways, man, but I cannot in good consciousness let you do this
Yeah.
and just ignore it like it's not, like it's fine.
Yeah, that's insane. I guess I haven't been doing this I've only been coaching for 2 years, but I've never seen someone over like 140, 300.
Oh, I've seen significantly higher.
Holy, that's insane. Okay, I wanted to know a little bit about your off-season diet, like at its peak, and maybe some ways that you managed getting all the food in.
So I counted everything as far as a protein source, like
Okay.
even like the non-complete proteins, like
Rice.
say if I counted that as well. So like my protein was still about 450, give or take. Sometimes maybe at 400, sometimes maybe 475, but it was in the 400s most of the time. But that was the same year round. Like, I adjusted the numbers depending on where the carbs and the fats were at. But like I tried to just use mostly carbs. And then once I would start getting tapped out on that, that's when I would start introducing fats. And I would have a brief period there where that would work. And then over time, I feel like that's when my insulin resistance was kicking in. And then I would just start actually getting fat. So at that point, it's time that we have to back off. But as far as like the foods, like I've kind of noticed over the past 2 years with people's like craze over cream of rice. But like back when I was competing, all we had was the little orange box. It was non-flavored. So you had Splenda and cinnamon, and that's about fucking it. Like, and you could put your protein powder in with it. And that's what I did was I would like, At that time I was sponsored with Evogen, and I was using the chocolate peanut butter cup. And I don't even know if that even exists in today's time. Like I don't even know if he still has that flavor with his company, but like I would use that or vanilla bean, and I would mix it in with my cream of rice. So like I was able to get a pretty high amount of carbs just through that. But I was also using like whole grain pasta. Um, I did Ezekiel cereal, Ezekiel bread, but you got to think with the Ezekiel bread and stuff, where that's going to be like really high in protein, and that's also a complete protein as well. So when it comes to that, I really didn't like to skimp out on eating like meat or eggs. So like I'm not gonna eat like 8 slices of Ezekiel bread, which would put me, I don't even remember, I think it's 5 grams a slice. That's 40 grams of protein there. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna do that. So I did have some bagels in there in the mix. I had like liquid carbs, pre, intra, and post. I would have that to boost my calories up. I used dark chocolate from time to time to boost calories up. Peanut butter was in place because it's not really going to. I mean, that's like when we're talking about getting into the fats.
Yeah.
Same thing with olive oil, coconut oil. Those were always sources that I would use. But I feel like I stick to mostly bodybuilding foods, and I just had to shovel it down
Yeah.
because I think the peak. I don't have this file. I used to have when I moved from Jacksonville to St. Lucie. I lost it, man. And to be honest, I may have shedded a couple of tears on this one because I feel like I lost my life's work.
Damn.
I had everything on a flash drive. I didn't do anything on the computer. I didn't use my fitness pal. I didn't use any of that stuff. I had an Excel chart that had my diets on it, and every time I would hit, like when I would change what I want to change, I'd have the date labeled at the top, and I would hit save as. That way, I saved it as a new file every single time. I had all my check-in photos and stuff on it since the time I was like 15 years old. I lost that when I moved in 2020. Like that would
Damn.
have been some cool memorabilia to have to be able to see like what you were eating and then see what you looked like at the time of what you were eating because the pictures were dated as well, just because that's how they upload.
Yeah.
So I don't have that unfortunately, but I think my peak calories was at 8,800 if I'm not mistaken. But I
Damn.
was also training twice a day at that point. So you got to realize the liquid carbs coming in just from that alone was going to be probably upwards of like 250 to 300 grams of liquid carbs. So like 1,200 calories of that was coming just from that. And
Yeah.
then same with the protein, add another 400 from the protein coming. So you got 1,600 calories right off the top that just comes from liquid.
Damn. Okay. And when you were training twice a day, how did you train? Like, I'm assuming you probably couldn't go to failure if
No,
you
I
were doing.
did. I did. And, I don't want to pick on people. I really don't when I say this. And because I'm 100%, I am anti the old head philosophy where these like guys from the 90s, like, oh, we outworked you guys. We did this. Oh, no, fuck all that. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Like, I'm tired of hearing like some of these older bodybuilders saying how they were so much superior because they worked harder. No, you fucking didn't. Like, I'm sorry. And they can all come at me if they like on that, but I don't believe that they did. There may have been a few outliers like Ronnie and Dorian, which was also the best in the world. But just generally speaking, if you're not Ronnie or Dorian or Jay, you should probably just not chime in on that. What about how hard you outworked all of us?
Yeah.
But I actually did. I trained rather high volume on those 2 a day sessions, and I took the sets to failure too. Maybe not every single set, but I would say if I'm doing 30 sets in the morning and 30 sets in the evening, I would say at least 50% of those were at failure, full blown failure.
Damn.
So,
So
but you also got to realize with me, I was young. I also did not have a job, so I could eat, sleep, rest, train. That was my life. I was paid to do that. The endorsements back in that time was enough to be considered twice a normal person's salary. So like I was very comfortable financially to be able to not have a job and be able to do that. Versus today's time, either one, you better be a really good content creator to make money off of YouTube and Instagram, or you better be inherently wealthy, or you're selling drugs, or you're doing some other weird stuff that you shouldn't be doing, or you actually have a full-time job that you're working to support. And if you're working like take a personal trainer for example. Like if you're a personal trainer, the average person, unless you're Charles Glass, if you're Charles, you're working with elite level bodybuilders, and even Charles works with guys that isn't elite level because I see some videos where he's worked with average people.
Yeah.
And the average person that comes to the gym and they hire a personal trainer, they expect you to load the weight for them and unload the weight for them. I'm like, bro, like, what the fuck? Like, you want to get better. Like, why do I'm telling you what to do and showing you how to exercise. This is why I could never be a personal trainer. I'm
Yeah.
not going to load and unload your weights for you. Like, that's not going to happen. But that's what most personal trainers do. So if you're a bodybuilder, you're moving several thousand pounds a day on top of your workout, plus walking around and doing this. Like, your recovery is not going to be as good as the guy who gets to just go work out and go plop my fat ass out on the couch.
For sure.
So, I mean, that's where I feel like I was able to have that kind of recovery. Sure, was gear involved? Yeah, but it's also involved on all levels
Every
of like
person.
professional bodybuilding. So, like, that's really not a key factor as to whether or not I was able to do it or not able to do it. Maybe I was genetically, blessed to be able to handle that kind of volume. I'm not sure on that. But on the flip side, I won't knock everyone who can't do high volume. So again, none of this is like a stab or a hate towards the guys who don't do high volume, because I have seen rhabdomyolysis before. So that's something to take into consideration. So like when I build training programs for people, I very specifically put a section at like the top of our, like I do everything through WhatsApp. So there's going to be a paragraph there that I'm explaining to people how crucial their feedback is and how crucial that's going to be to the progress they're about to make or they're not make. Because I need to know how you're feeling. Because I typically will start on the higher side on the volume. But if you're just feeling like, holy shit, Justin, I feel like I'm going to die. Okay, then that's not going to be for you. And I do encounter that from time to time. That doesn't mean that those people are pussies. It doesn't mean that they're not training hard enough, or it doesn't mean that they're overtraining. It just means their body is not capable of doing what the next guy's is. And that doesn't mean that they're not going to make it to the top either, because you do have like elite level guys that train on low volume. So you got to find what is going to work for you. And that's something that like we got to work out together. I need your feedback to be able to know what's going to, be the best fit for you. And, I have guys who reach out to me and they want to know like, hey, can you just do a training program for me? And my answer is always no. Because if I'm just doing your training and I'm not looking at your nutrition, or if I think that if I don't have full control over everything, I feel like the training is not important.
Yeah.
Like if your nutrition doesn't match your training, I'm really not interested in doing your training. And kind of the same thing as way, like, as long as you can be consistent with your training, I will do the nutrition side of it, but not vice versa, because I don't want to fight your nutrition coach with the style of training that I'm doing. Like, I don't want to collab on that. That's just more of a headache and more of a pain in the ass than what I'm willing to deal with.
Yeah, for sure.
You've heard the phrase, there's too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
There's too many cooks in the kitchen. You got a posing coach, you got a personal trainer, you have a training coach, you got a nutrition coach, you got a PED coach.
Yeah.
No, all this is not going to work out. You need to pick one guy, trust in that guy, believe in that guy, and do what that guy says.
No, for sure. And
if it don't work, you know that you did everything on your end that you could possibly do, and it just simply didn't work. But if you're taking advice from 3 or 4 different people and you're combining it and it don't work, you are the only person to blame at that point.
Yeah.
None of these guys are responsible except yourself.
Yeah. And you can't even tell like what is going wrong because you don't know whose advice is like steering you in the wrong direction.
Yeah, and then not to mention, this has actually been brought to my attention kind of recently, and I don't know why. I had a hunch. But I just, it's one of those things like when it, like say like a patient goes to a doctor's office and they can tell that this person is a smoker or a drinker or whatever. When you ask them that question and they say no, you can smell it on them, but you can't sit here and accuse them of it as a doctor. Like you can't look, well, I know you're doing it.
Yeah.
Like you just can't do that. So when you don't tell me the truth about what you're actually taking, tell me the truth about how much cardio you're doing, or tell me the truth about what you're actually eating, and the plan fails, that's also on you too. And I've just recently found out, this was an old client of mine. And I have no idea why the truth just now came to my attention. Not like I said, it's been years at this point. But this guy was like, he got in shape like stupid fast. So for anybody that's trying to connect the dots on this person never actually got on stage. So you're not, and I only post stage clients. So you're not going to figure that out. But like I'm sitting here trying to figure out like, there were some issues, I will say, during that prep. And I'm trying to figure this out. I'm like, what the This doesn't make sense. But he's getting in shape at such a rapid pace. And I'm like, this is not a bad thing. This guy's just got a super metabolism. No, it wasn't a super metabolism. There was a lot of other factors being thrown at him that was not by me. And when I say a lot of factors, I mean a lot of different factors. I'm like, like at that point, like if something were to happen to your ass, I got to take the heat for it when I'm not the one telling you to do this stuff to begin with. So like that kind of shit really frustrates me.
For sure. He was probably eating some T3 like candy.
It was the highest amount that I've ever known anyone to use.
Jesus.
That was only one factor though.
Yeah. He tripled the trend too.
Well, no, it was actually much more than triple. It was much more than triple.
Damn, that's insane. I don't even see like I know like in the back in the days, like people used to do like 100 milligrams of ACE a day, but like I don't even really see a point of taking it above like max like 200 for like a big guy.
You mean 200 a day or 200 a week?
200 a week.
Oh, okay. When you said 100 a day and then you went to 200, I'm like,
no, my bad.
200. I was like 200 a day. I was like, that's some serious shit right there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
No, I think between 200 to 400 a week is a good sweet spot for most people. That's amateur all the way to the pro level.
Yeah, for sure.
When I see these guys doing like 1,000 plus a week, I've seen much higher than that. I've seen 2,000 and 3,000 a week.
Yeah.
For one, my question is, where are you putting it? Like, where are you putting that much oil at? Like, I genuinely have to know the answer to that. Like, I want to know. For someone who's actually done it, you're welcome to DM me. Like, how do you do this? Because I don't know. Second off, I have to question the legitimacy of it because I feel like your side effects would be like astronomically high to the point that you're having to take like 10 other drugs just to counter the side effects of that. So like, at what point is it too much? And I don't think people know when to ask that question for themselves.
Yeah. And I feel like there's like a point where you get all the good effects and then past that, you just get more sides. Like,
yeah. No, you're 100% spot on with that.
Okay, I wanted to ask you, so back in the day when you were doing those 2-a-days, kind of like how were you structuring your nutrition? And was there, I'm not aware, was there like Lantus back in the day or was it only like fast acting?
No, Lantus existed back then. I don't know when exactly that came out. I actually didn't need it. I've never touched Lantus in my life.
Oh,
I was someone that was really, really good at partitioning nutrients, but however, I'm not saying I didn't use insulin.
Yeah.
I said I never used Lantus. Yeah. I know how to use Humalog very well for cosmetic and hypertrophy purposes. Lantus I would use more so for glucose control, not necessarily hypertrophy. But mine would only, my 2-a-day sessions would only last about 6 to 8 weeks post show. Like, because prior to a contest, I would do cardio in the morning, fasted, which I still believe is superior than post-workout cardio. They both work, but if you have a choice and you have the option in your life, I prefer the fasted cardio rather than the post-workout cardio. So that was one session of my day done. And then the second session, I would come back and train. But immediately post-show, I'm like, I still to this day, I cannot find cardio that I enjoy. Like there's no form of cardio that I actually enjoy. That includes like boxing as well. Like I don't like cardio. Maybe I'm lazy. I don't care. I can lift weights for 4 hours. That's fine. But cardio for 30 minutes, I just feel like I'm going out of my mind. I hate it. So I immediately replaced the cardio with a double training session. And I could keep up with that for about 6 to 8 weeks. And after around 6 to 8 weeks, that was usually a typical rebound for me anyways. So when I just started feeling completely and utterly run down, that's when it's like, okay, now you're going to go back into a TRT, a health phase. You're going to back it off to 4 to 5 days a week training. You're going to lower the food back, let your body settle, give everything a break. But back to the original question on that, I would usually wake up, have the first meal, and I would train the first session after the first meal. And then I would do 2, sometimes 3 meals, just depending on where the day falls. But I also tried my best. This would not work in today's time for me because I actually personally found my best training sessions were alone. And when I say alone, I don't mean no training partner. I mean nobody in the gym. Like that's when I had my all-time, no cameras, just me doing what I want to do by myself. Like when I lived in Winchester, Kentucky, I trained at the YMCA, and that particular YMCA was actually had a really good weight room. And there was so many days that I would walk in there and I was the only person in the gym. And it was like heaven to me. It was like my own little paradise.
Yeah, it sounds like a dream.
So yeah, it's like you have nice equipment, you have good heavy weights, a lot of free weights, and like I said, it had everything that I needed into it. And I just liked it. So I would time my meals. I know if I go at 5 o'clock, there's really no gym in America that's not busy at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like that's peak hours. 5 to 7 o'clock, it's peak hours. I do not want to be around that shit.
Yeah.
And that's not saying that like, people take that personal, but like when I'm training, I don't want to talk. And that's a me thing because I get sidetracked and my brain is like almost kind of like ADHD sort of like I'll go completely left field. And then once I snap back into it, I'm like, now I'm angry because I'm like, dude, you just fucked up 5 minutes of my time. You lost like now I just like change moods because of this conversation. So I understand that's a me thing. So, and not other people, because some people can like chit chat in between sets and like have normal conversations and they get right after it. I'm not wired like that. So I have to like keep my headphones in, keep my head down, stay focused in order to execute and do what I need to do. So I would probably go 2 to 3 meals, and then that would put me training around 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then like my bedtime was like 8 o'clock at night. So I've always been kind of like early in bed. So if I'm training at 2 to 3 o'clock, I will get that second session in before the evening crowd comes in. And then my first session in the morning was after, like, a lot of people will come in to the gym before they go to work.
Yeah.
I'm coming in after that crowd too. So like I'm beating the crowd on both ends.
Fuck yeah.
And that was like part of my goal. I mean, those were two of the times when I genuinely felt like the highest energy peaks throughout the day. So why not utilize that? I don't have a job. This is my job. So I'm utilizing the time that I have to the best of my ability. And I get to avoid the crowd peak as well. So, like I said, it's not so much that I didn't really want to talk to people. I just don't want to talk to people while I'm physically training.
Yeah, for sure. No, I don't think that's just a you thing. Like if I'm going to train with someone, I tell them like, I'm not going to talk to you like the entire time we work out.
It's not even about the training partners. It's just like, you also got to realize this as well. Like when I was at my peak, I was walking around with like 24-inch arms.
Yeah.
That's the first things people see. So like, I remember there would be times like I would be like dead. And this still happens to this day. And I'm not any nicer about it now than I was 15 years ago. If I am directly in the middle of a set, like a working set that I'm planning to take to failure, and you like approach me within like too close a personal space, and you decide that now is a good time that I'm going to ask this guy a question in the middle of his set, you're not going to get a very nice response from me. Like I'm going to be very snarky with what I have to say, and I'm going to be a smart ass. And depending on how you take that, depending on where it's going to go, like, like I remember there was one time, man, I was doing hack squats. This was not like my PR, but it might have been my PR at the time. It was like 8 or 9 plates per side. And I didn't like everything in front of me, like there was nobody in front of me. So, and I was by myself as well. But thankfully I knew where the bottom was on that hack squat. And the bottom was like maybe a 1/4 of an inch shy of me being like ass to the grass. Like as far as like, so like if I got stuck, I didn't care. I just crawl out of it. I crawled out of that machine several times because I would take it that far to the point I would get stuck. I remember I had like 8 plates on the side. And I guess the little kid that worked at the front desk, he was given a tour of the gym. And it was like 2 older women. And I guess I need to be careful about saying older because, I'm getting older myself now. But it was 2 older women. They were definitely older than I am. And they were getting a tour. And they just so happens walked around right while I'm like 2 or 3 reps deep. I don't remember how many to be specific. This was training in Richmond. So it'd been like 2014, 2015 range. So we're talking 12 years ago. I'm mid-set, and one of them like kind of leans in. She goes, "Excuse me, sir, how much weight is that?" And like, dude, my face is red about to pop just because of how much pressure's on my back. And I still had like 2 or 3 more in the tank. So I didn't answer her. I'm not going to stop my fucking set to answer your question. So I remember cranking out like two more, and then she leans in and raises her voice. And she's like, "Excuse me, sir, how much weight is that?" And the fucking gym kid that worked there didn't have enough sense to be like, "Man, you need to let him finish."
Yeah.
He should have known better. So needless to say, when I racked the weight, I was not nice at all. And I have a feeling they didn't sign up for a gym membership. Like they probably did not want to be around me any further at that point. But it's like I have like again 800 pounds on my back. You really shouldn't distract someone when they have that much poundage on them. I mean,
Yeah.
one, you're throwing their mindset off, but two, you could actually cause a potential injury as well.
Yeah.
Like you just don't do that. And again, these are people that were not introduced to they didn't know about gym environment. They don't know about gym etiquette. So it's like I didn't go all in because of that. But like I did let them know that like, hey, don't ever do that shit again. Like don't ever do that again. So like I said, they didn't understand, when people don't go to the gym, they just simply don't know, right? I'm sure me and you have been in places where I know I have, I've been in places where I probably asked questions when it was not the proper time and they just didn't know. Again, the gym assistant should have known, but I'm one of those people that like I train my best alone.
Mhm.
Like I will say the only guy that I felt like that was I got to give him credit to this, even though we don't talk anymore. But like Jansen was probably the only guy that was that fit my body type and my training style as a training partner. Like we would just go to the gym, shut the fuck up, not talk, and he knew like when to spot, when not to spot, or say, "Hey man, you're done." Like that's it, just call it right there. Like he was the only guy that I'll give him props on that. He was the only guy that I ever trusted. Not trusted because I trusted a lot of people, but he was the only guy we were on sync together. If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you had like Dexter and Charles. Like those two were like, a match made in heaven because they always, they trained together one on one, and Dexter was always winning shows. So obviously, they had some type of chemistry between the two of them as far as like an athlete and a coach or athlete and a trainer.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Hopefully, I find that sometime. But I also just like training alone, to be honest.
Yeah, like I loved it. And then it also gave me it was also a time throughout my day that I had to myself and I could think. And oftentimes like I don't want to say like there was times that I did have an empty house, I'd be at my house, and do whatever. But that wasn't always the case. So I could sit in the gym parking lot, I could like hype myself up, tell myself what I'm going to do. But also when I'm done, I would have my post workout sitting in the front seat with me. So like I would sit there and I could reflect on whether it be reflect on the training, reflect on what happened yesterday, reflect on what's going to happen tomorrow, like, or think about this. Like it would give me like some personal space. And I
Yeah.
feel like I needed that.
Yeah. For sure. Okay. I wanted to get a little bit into the most recent shows like with Tampa and Atlanta. So
Yeah.
I know that Joe. I heard him on a podcast. He was saying that he had some fake. I think it was Winstraw.
No, wasn't Winstrol.
Or no, but like what was he trying to have?
Halo.
Oh, he was trying to have Halo, and then he got Anadrol, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
actually weren't going to talk about that, but since he posted or since he's publicly said it,
Yeah.
okay, fine, cat's out of the bag on that. I mean, we live in a time now that I feel like you can actually say that and it doesn't really affect anything. Now, 15 years ago, you would not want to be having this conversation. You
Yeah.
would just simply say, I overate my carbs or whatever, and that's that. And to be fair, when it comes to this was out of my hands, out of his hands, but I am going to take some responsibility for this because I should have caught on and I didn't catch this at the time. So we were kind of cruising, chugging along, and then all of a sudden, I remember pulling food just a tad. And all it takes is small adjustments in either direction, and Joe's body changes. Very small adjustments. Like big adjustments, you will drive him straight into the ground.
Mm.
So, contrary to him calling himself Fat Joe, he does get in shape really quickly as well. Like it's not a problem for him. But I noticed I pulled the food back a little bit, and I think we were up like 3 or 4 pounds, like right when we added that in. But he still looked good enough through the videos that I'm like, okay, I'm not like disappointed in this. But there is one thing that we would consider here, and we didn't really figure this out, but like we did figure this out, is I saw a lot of like post cardio or post training videos as well as the fasted. I saw both. So I'm not going to sit here and say that it was because of that. I saw both, and like post cardio or post training, now he sweated all that water out because I mean his shirt, I mean you could like wring it with water and he would be very dry at that point. And I'm like, okay, we're right on track. But like in the mornings, he was harder post workout, and there's a reason why that is because he's sweating through all of that water.
Yeah.
So when it, like, you got to think on show day, you don't get to work out on show day. If you've worked out on show day, you've sweated your tan off at that point. So once we went on stage, I realized that like I actually wasn't going to say anything at all. Like, you know, Joe said that, and that's you know his decision to discuss that. I wasn't going to say anything because I know how vicious the internet wants to be on things, and they're going to be like, oh, he's blaming this as an excuse, and of course that's what people said. So like, you know, because whether you win or whether you lose, the internet's going to attack regardless. I mean, look at Derek Lunsford. What has Derek ever said to hurt someone's feelings? I've never seen Derek say a bad word, but yet he's one of the most like disrespected like Mr. Olympians of all time. It just blows my fucking mind. The guy literally is nice to everyone, and people, you know, whenever he says he's going to do something and he backs it up, all of a sudden that's arrogant, egotistical. Yet when someone else says it, you know, it's not. So like people don't know what the hell they're doing. Dylan Schneider actually made a video about the exact same thing, and I'm actually kind of stealing his idea off that. But Dylan was talking about how, like, you know, Derek can say, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and he does it. Or even if he doesn't do it, you know, he catches shit no matter what. But if somebody else says it, if it's your favorite bodybuilder and they say it, whether it comes to fruition or it doesn't, it gets brushed under the rug. But if it's like, you probably know where I'm getting at on this. I'm not going to say this, but like, all I'm going to say is like where Joe wasn't the favorite going into the show, he's going to catch shit fucking no matter what. Win or lose, on or off, he was going to catch shit for that. Yeah. Because the internet was not going to be happy with that because, again, he wasn't the fan favorite going into the show. Now, I feel like that issue got corrected, and maybe a particular special person, without using the big hard R word, starts R-E-T. So yeah, when I say hard R, that's what I'm talking about, not racial.
Yeah.
Without you know, because I don't think YouTube allows us to say stuff like that.
I've said it a lot of times, but
oh, I can say retard.
Yeah, you could say retard.
That's see, I didn't even know I could say retard. But like, you know, for the people that don't know, you know, going into Atlanta, you know, me and Joe both agreed that we brought his best at that show because I noticed I probably went a little bit drastic right out of the gate because I was like, okay, we're going to get rid of this water. We're going to drop this bullshit. And I made a couple of other adjustments. I said, we are 100% going to get rid of this. And we're going to dry the fuck up and we're going to be our best in Atlanta. I was like, it's not a matter of like whether he needs to be more conditioned or not conditioned. You know, people can say what they want to say. Like I posted my own video because the videos that got posted online was absolute trash. Like the fit models, because keep in mind, this was a Saturday, Sunday show. The Saturday guys, the men's physique guys, they looked out of shape. They were not. Let me be very clear. They were not. But like all the categories, they looked out of shape. And I'm not picking on whoever did the videography because there was 2 or 3 people that was doing it and they all looked like shit. I was sitting in the very, very back row, as far as you can get. And I'm using the same phone that I'm recording on right now. So you can see I don't have a special camera or anything like that. I zoomed in to about 10 times view and I was able to pick up the details that I was able to pick up. So people can go look at that video and tell me whether or not what they think on that. But we, I think it was around Wednesday, we saw like a really low body weight. And I wasn't looking at the scale, but what I did, I actually noticed the pictures before I looked at the scale. And as you know, one of Joe's weakest points was always been his legs, right?
Yeah. Like
his legs doesn't match his upper body. And that's something that we tried very diligently to work on this offseason. Hamstrings grew, quads grew, but the thing is the upper body grew even more. So again, we're going to be kind of laying off that, and he's going to be the the sole focus now is going to be legs. And I'm going to hopefully you can get this podcast out rather quickly, just so people can hear this, so they can understand a little bit of the reasoning why we're skipping Texas and not doing Texas. But quads was something I noticed in those Wednesday, I think it was Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning. I have to go back at my phone and look, but I think it was Wednesday morning. I saw they were fading. And somebody who, if, fans could say what they want to say, because fans most of the time are retarded. Haha, I said it again. Because most people don't have a fucking clue what actually goes into a contest prep. Usually your weakest body part is going to be the first body part that's going to fade when you go into a caloric deficit. Like, for example, my back would look pretty decent in the off season. My back was considered my weak point. And every time I got on stage, my back would be the one muscle that would tend to kind of atrophy a little bit. I noticed the quads were fading, and they were fading fast. Within just 3 days of me pushing him to the brink, I noticed the quads were fading off quickly. And I said, okay. And it's not that they were not in shape, but I was like, if I push any harder on this, we're going to show up with a bigger problem than having water. I was like, now we're going to have a very unbalanced, and we're going to be flat as hell on stage. I was like, so we chose what was going to be his best physique for that season, and we brought it on stage. And regardless of the placing, whether it be James, whether it be Reagan, to be fair, I feel like if we would, and people are saying, oh, he's afraid of Reagan or he's afraid of James. No, it's neither one. It's not about being afraid or afraid of losing, but it is the fact that, like, where we got third at that show, and I feel like we were about as good as we're going to get for this season. I didn't say we're at the cap, because I don't think Joe's anywhere near capped out. I think there's a lot of room that's still going to be made, a lot of improvements that's going to be done. But if Reagan sharpens up 10%, if Joe sharpens up 10%, he's going to lose his legs. And if he loses his legs, Reagan's got good legs. So how's that going to look on stage? You're going to have the people be like, oh, he got second place again. And if he doesn't do the show, it's like, oh, you're being a quitter. I can go ahead and tell you, a couple of those guys in that comment section that was talking about this, there's one, I didn't call his name, but hopefully he listens to this podcast, because he needs to fucking hear this. This is a guy who cannot adhere to his diet one fucking day. And the only reason I know that is because I know his former coaches. I know them very well. Word travels. If he asked me to coach him, I would say no, because he can't follow a diet. But yet you feel the need to criticize a guy who could be 10 times greater than something that you will never be. People are saying, oh, it's a quitter's mentality. No, it's not a quitter's mentality, because our goal is to get to the Olympia, but not just to get to the Olympia. It's to make an impact at the Olympia. And as of right now, we both agreed that we're not going to be able to do that this year. We're not going to, it's like people criticized me in 2014 for not doing the Olympia when I qualified. I didn't want to just do the Olympia to fucking place last. Yeah. What would be the point in that? People are like, oh, but no, you don't walk my shoes. You don't pay my bills. You don't tell me what to do. So, I set that year out because I had bigger plans. I had other things. I had just gotten into a new relationship. And I also, back in 2014, if you won the Europa shows, you got an automatic invite to the Arnold. So I was like, I know I'm doing the Arnold Classic. That's the second biggest show. So I was like, maybe I should test the waters at the Arnold before going to the Olympia, which is exactly what I did. People got mad at me. I had some stupid comments in the DMs, but it's like, I'm in a position that you're never going to be in. So therefore you can't even understand or fathom my position. So take a back seat on that one. So again, when it comes back to him doing the show, if we did Texas, and let's just say we finished second, it's not what we came for. What was the point? People are like, it's a paycheck. A paycheck of what? Like $6,000 or $7,000? Like, what the fuck is that in today's time? What's $7,000? Because you got to think, you're going there for a week at an Airbnb. You're paying for all your show stuff. Like, by the time you do that, and then you got to pay taxes on that $7,000 too, assuming that, you're in the six-figure tax bracket, which I can assume he is, because Joe lives in California. I don't even know if you could live for less than six figures in California, Southern California. Yeah. But, if you're at six-figure tax bracket, you're going to pay probably 30% of that right off the top. So you're losing 30% at $6,000. You're losing, why am I drawing a blank? $1,800 right off the top. So now you're at $4,800. So when you pay for flights, because it's not just Joe traveling. Joe was a team. I was going to go too if he did Texas. Now I wasn't expecting Joe to pay for my flight, but like I was going to go too. But you got to think the money, the hotels, the Airbnbs, the Ubers, the rental cars. We break even.
Yeah.
So what is the point in doing a show to break even? You don't get the Olympia qualification. Now, let's hypothetically say Reagan drops the ball, Joe sharpens up, and Joe gets the win. Now we got an Olympia qualification. And if I know Joe, he would do the Olympia. Like I know his goal is to not do the Olympia and be a last call out. He wants to do much better than that. And there's nothing wrong with a guy who just simply wants to be the best he can be. You know, people can trash talk that all they want, but there's nothing wrong with being confident, trying to be the best you can. Phil Heath sat out a couple of Olympias as well. Not trying to compare Joe to Phil, but just think about the concept of that. Phil didn't want to do the Olympia to just say, oh, well, here's my little medal saying that I did it. You know, that wasn't the goal. So hypothetically, if we would have won Texas, then same thing applies. Like the end goal is still not going to be the end goal. And we realize that, and that's why we chose to shut things down. You know, when he was talking about like Reagan's structure, it's not about that Reagan necessarily has like the superior structure, which he does have a superior structure. So I'm not countering that either, but there's points of Joe's physique that we need to bring up to be able to stand next to guys with a superior structure. I'm getting my words twisted here. So by being able to do that with another offseason, we both agreed that that was the way to go. Because again, win, lose, or draw in Texas, well, there's no draw, but like win or lose, our end product is not what we want. And that's more so what we're focusing on. Hell, I sat the Olympia out twice because I didn't feel like I was ready to bring what I needed to bring to that show. And turns out when I did it, I ended up bombing out anyway because I missed my fucking peak. But that's a whole different story on its own. Like I feel like I had the physique that year. I just missed the mark by a long shot. And something that, you know, Bob and Sean had just recently talked about, you know, love them or hate them, they made a valid point. Why are we having prejudging at 11 p.m. at night? Yeah. That makes no sense at all. But that's a whole different topic on its own. Back to staying on point with that is like, I just feel like it was time. Me and Joe both agreed it was time to shut the season down at that point.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good decision too. Like, and people, yeah, like you said, like the internet is just going to talk, but they don't understand like anything about bodybuilding. I mean, they're not.
No, the vast majority of them, they have their favorite bodybuilders and they have, you know, their fans, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But at the same time, they feel like they understand everything about it, and they don't.
Yeah.
Sure. You know, until you've either walked the walk or talked the talk or done both, like in my case, I've done both. So I've been on the receiving end, I've been on the giving end of this. So until you've done that, it's not saying that your opinion is not valid, but like your opinion is not the end all be all, and it doesn't mean that you know better.
Yeah, for sure.
Like you still have an opinion, and your opinion is still, you know, worthy. It just doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I'm all about freedom of speech. Speak your mind, man. Say what you want to say, but just because you say it doesn't mean that it's accurate.
For sure. Okay. Before we got like 5 listener questions.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you real quick about the rebound, because at least like personally for me, that's like where I've made my most progress, and same with my clients, kind of following your philosophy on the post show rebound, or like getting super lean and then kind of just like hammering carbs. So yeah. I wanted to know first off how quickly you start to bring calories back post show, and kind of how you go about it.
It varies from one person to the next, but I want to give a very vague and a brief rundown, because there's 2 types of people out here. There's going to be the hungry type that's going to say, I'm still, like, they consider off season the same as prep. And those are going to be your successful bodybuilders, because the real work is done in the off season. It's not done during prep. I mean, prep is dieting down, shredding body fat, which in my opinion is easy. That's the easy part. Building muscle is the hard part. That's when you're going to be uncomfortable year round doing things that, you know, is not necessarily what you want to do. But if I know I got someone who is, you know, if we're a week post show and you've only gained like 5 or 6 pounds, or maybe even 10 pounds, like on a big guy, again, who can hold more glycogen, I'm like, okay, I can start moving a little bit more aggressively on the calories, But when I have someone who I've started out low and yet they're up 25 pounds, it's like, okay, I can't move aggressively on the calories with you. Like we're not going to have as productive of a rebound either. So it really just depends on how diligent I feel like the person wants to be. And then some people are just very, very sensitive when they reintroduce carbs right after a show. So there's like that third category that's a very minority part of bodybuilding, but there is guys that like, that had to do 90 minutes of cardio, 2 hours of cardio on no carbs, and all of a sudden you give them 200 grams of carbs and they're blowing up a pound or two every day. I like to let that slow down because I'm not going to just sit here and make you fat just for the sake of putting weight on the scale. That's not going to benefit either one of us short term or long term. So it really like I like to move it up as fast as I can, but I'm paying attention to how quickly the scale's moving versus where your body's looking. Like you may be up 20 pounds and you may still be super lean. I'm game to keep pushing. You may be up 20 pounds and you look full blown off season. I'm not game to keep pushing. So it really varies on how someone responds. And again, whether there be outside factors or not outside factors, because I'm someone who I expect you to tell me everything on your check ins. I'm not going to ask you every time on your check ins. It's your job as an athlete to have full disclosure to your coach as to whether or not I got all 5 cardio sessions in, I've got 3 in, I had one off meal plan, this is what I had. It's your job to tell your coach that. We shouldn't have to ask and pry to learn those questions. And I don't ask and I don't pry because again, my initial like when I check it when I do like an initial startup plan with people, I tell them this is part of your feedback. Like when I say I want feedback, I need to know what happened that week. That way I can make proper adjustments and proper assessments. So if you don't give me any feedback, I can only assume that everything was on track. And that's how I treat it.
For sure. And then in terms of cardio post show, do you kind of just like to go down to like a maintenance level of cardio, or how do you like to structure that once they're
It kind of depends on where the person was at getting ready for the show because I have had people like for example, I'm going to use him as a little bit more of an extreme, but I think people will definitely remember him. But when Jonathan Withers won the Nationals in 2020, he had superb conditioning over everyone else, but I got him up to almost 2 hours of cardio a day. So if you remove that 2 hours of cardio a day and then start pounding him with carbs, he's going to get fat really fast.
yeah,
So I think I actually started him off at like 5 days a week at 60 minutes a day, like post show. So I mean, if you think about it, that actually sucks really bad to be like not even in contest prep and still doing an hour of cardio a day. But I tapered that cardio off over like the 6 to 8 weeks to get him down to a maintenance phase. And there is a point with certain guys that I will completely remove the cardio because at that point, I feel like if your conditioning is good enough and I'm satisfied with that, and I can tell that, like, we still got room to grow here, but your calories are just astronomically high. It's better, in my opinion, to decrease the output than try to increase the input. So I
yeah,
would rather just cut the cardio completely. It doesn't mean we're cutting it for like ever. We're just cutting it for a brief period of time to push through a plateau, and then we're going to add it back in.
yeah,
You're not gonna die of coronary artery disease if you skip 3 months of cardio of your life.
for sure. Okay, and then go like for the drugs for the post show. I'm assuming you just like to take out the harsher compounds and then leave in
Yes,
more of like the basic like test and maybe a secondary.
yes, correct.
Okay.
That's pretty much spot on. Get rid of the stuff that's going to be, harsh on your liver, harsh on your kidneys, harsh on your lipid profile. Get rid of all that. Go to like more safer compounds, and we just keep right on moving at that point. And obviously, I would prefer this. I don't get this with every client, but I would prefer blood work sometime during that rebound as well.
For sure. Yeah.
I don't like having blood work immediately, like 3 days after a show, because you're going to see a lot of markers that just haven't had the time to balance itself back out from what you've been through. But like, I feel like anywhere 2 weeks to 8 weeks post show, anywhere in that time frame, we should have the right numbers. And if we don't have the right numbers, we need to change directions.
For sure. Okay, and then following that, like let's say 8 week rebound period, then how do you like to structure? Like, do you like to go straight into an off season, or do you kind of do like a cruise And then
No,
maybe on top.
I oftentimes will go into a cruise, but I've had both scenarios where I've went different directions with people. But if I have the ability, I'll typically go into a cruise. If I have some guys who are just straight up hyper responders and they just grow, I'm like, your blood work looks good and we're responding good. I may just extend this on out a little bit longer. But like if I can see where it's like, okay, a little bit of insulin resistance here, body fat's going up, the scale's going up, but the body fat's going up with it at a rate that I don't like. At that point, I'm probably going to say, let's pull things back, let's cruise, let's, probably going to pull back on the calories, reset things before we actually start like an actual off season.
For sure. Okay. And then last question about the rebound. So like let's say maybe you have some fats and like some added fats in meals. Obviously as a person is like getting in closer to the show, and like into the show. Would you be like a proponent of in the rebound, maybe removing some of those fats and then replacing it more with carbohydrates?
Yeah, I prefer more like I don't like to go like 20 or 30 grams of fat like I see some people doing.
Yeah.
Like your brain's gonna need that to function. You may look good, but you're gonna feel like shit. So
Hmm.
like I'll bump the fats up to what I would consider more of an optimal level for people, and then I like to on the low end of optimal, let's say that,
Yeah.
and then I like to use protein and carbs from there.
Okay. Perfect. And then in terms of protein, are you in the camp of just like as much as they can handle, pretty
No,
much? No.
no. I mean, because I know some guys that could probably eat 600 or 700 grams of protein a day.
Okay.
Like
That's
I probably could have eaten 600 to 700 grams a day, like, but because like for example, when I told you my calories are like 8,800, you got to realize at 450 grams of protein, that's only going to be like 1,800 calories worth of protein. So all the other calories is coming from carbs and fats. Well, those carbs and fats have protein in it too, and I'm trying to calculate and take that into consideration. So with calories being that high, sometimes my meals would be like 6 ounce portions of meat, five and a
Okay.
half, whatever I needed to do on that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely me. I could eat like infinite protein. I was like doing like 10-ounce portions and I was still like so hungry. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to underdo the protein, but there is such a thing as overdoing it as well.
for sure. Um, oh, okay. And then last question. Like assuming that they're like super sensitive in the rebound, um, like would you ever add in some sort of insulin in that
Possibly,
process?
and more than likely, but it also depends on the person and what stage that I feel like they're at. Because, like, take someone who has only done one or maybe two shows. Like, to be fair, we can have a good, successful rebound without it. I mean, even sometimes on an elite level, we can still have a good, successful rebound without any insulin. And I feel like as long as I'm able to do that with you, I'd like to keep that card in our back pocket for when it's needed down the road.
Yeah,
Like
for
if I feel like we're getting progress on XYZ gear, and then the next cycle we still get same good progress on XYZ, I'm not going to go up until I feel like it's actually necessary to go up. Like
yeah,
I'm not. It's not like, well, cycle one is this much, cycle two is this much, cycle three. It's no, I don't do that. Like I go with what's needed, and like I've seen some guys who are hyper responders. I've seen hypo responders. I've seen it on both ends. And I don't ever really like try to criticize someone's work ethic as well with that, because I've seen guys that I personally know very, very well. And I'm not talking about people that I've met online, people that I've like, met on the internet, or people that I've met at shows and they tell me how hard they work and they show me their, no. I'm talking about people that are like personally involved in my life. I have seen them take what I've taken, train as hard, if not harder than me, and I've watched them woof the meals down, get the food in, and they did not grow at the same rate that I did. So like they're like that's why I don't like to question people's work ethic, because like there is people out there that is doing and usually the hypo responders are the ones that's working harder than the hyper responders, because they know that like they're dying to get those results.
yeah, for sure.
And it's
Um,
sad and unfortunate that, that's sometimes just how the cookie crumbles in the sport. Genetics plays a role into that.
yeah, for sure. Um, Yeah, I always tell like if my clients, like a lot of them are younger obviously because of my age. So like they'll send me like some guy on the Olympia stage and be like, "Can I look like this in a year?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm gonna have to break it to you. Like everyone on the Olympia stage is like basically one of one." Like,
Yeah, there's very few people that have been able to go straight to the top. And like, I'm trying to think, and I don't think anyone's done it within a year.
yeah, no, for sure.
No, no, no. I take it back. One guy, Derek Lunsford, was an amateur and he was top five at the Olympia within the same year.
Damn, that's
Actually,
crazy.
within 5 weeks.
Holy shit, that's
So
insane.
he won the USA's following weekend, wins Tampa Pro, and then gets fifth at the Olympia like 4 weeks after that. But
Jeez.
like that again, that's a one for one guy because no one's ever won the 212 and the Open. So like you have a special person to be able to do that. And 90% of people, that's just like, I hate to be like the dream killer here, but like, when kids are little and they say I want to play in the NFL, keep that dream, but just be mindful that you're probably not going to make it.
Yeah,
It's very, very special people who actually play field time in the game. And it's the same thing with bodybuilders, the guys that can, make it in that rapid amount of time. I mean, you look at history on this. Dorian was a guy who made it rather quickly. He had like a 3 to maybe 4 years from the time he started competing to the time he won the Olympia, if I'm not mistaken on that. And I'm I'm not going to be 100% factual on that, but I'm pretty sure 88, 89 is he began his competitive journey.
yeah.
And then by like, I think it was 92 did he win in 92?
Or he was at least getting like top 30.
No, he was never less than second place.
Oh, really?
Yeah. His first Olympia was second place.
Jesus.
And then the next year he won. I don't know if that was like 92, 93, but like I mean, this is the guy we're still talking about over 30 years later. So again, that's a special, unique specimen to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then Phil Heath, Phil turned pro in 2005. He didn't take his first Olympia win until 2011. So there was a 6 year period there for Phil. And that's also one of the greatest bodybuilders to ever do it. And then I always compare like Phil, Ronnie, and Dorian to kind of be in the same category. All three of those are elites. And some people want to argue this one's better than that one. I'm just gonna say they're all three fucking amazing. But like Ronnie was a pro for several years before he became Mr. Olympia as well. So like anyone that's thinking that they're gonna look like an Olympian in 1 year, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
It is, I mean, I don't want to belittle because that's not my intention here, but I will say fit model, you might be able to do that with a fit model category, assuming that you are dedicating your whole life, making sure that your posing is absolutely 100% perfection. And the only reason I say that about fit model is because they require the least amount of muscle of all the categories.
Yeah.
Because, like if a girl has good genetics, she may be able to do it natural. If she doesn't have good genetics, I don't feel like it would take a lot of gear in order to be able to achieve that. But again, when you're talking about even men's physique guys, anyone that thinks they can look like a men's physique Olympian in 1 year, you're out of your fucking mind. Like, I don't even want to work with them because you have unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, and honestly, like the men's physique guys kind of have like the craziest genetics just because of their like waist. It's like so
Yeah, I mean, a
crazy.
lot of those guys, I feel like I don't really know a whole lot of them on a personal level, but like if if they still have room to grow, and there's a lot of factors when I say room to grow, if they still had the room to grow, they would make killer open bodybuilders.
Yeah, that's what
But
I mean.
it would take a couple of years, and I just don't know if a lot of them. I mean, I'm just putting myself in their shoes. Would I be willing to walk away for 2 to 3 years, and then come back? Like that's a whole different fiasco.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, especially if you're a top guy as well. Now, if you're a guy who's like getting your ass handed to you in every show, like you're your third call out, meaning you're probably not making any money off the sport and you're just spending money, then yeah, maybe you should take that 2 years off. You'd be money in the bank to do so, and your physique would be better as well. But like again, I just don't think a lot of them has the ability to take the 2 to 3 years off.
Yeah. And also like all the sacrifices that would go into it. Like right now they're kind of like they're still obviously bigger than the normal person, but they're still kind of a normal person. Like then they have to like
Um, I don't know, man. like I said, I don't have. I know a couple of the men's physique Olympians, but it's not like we eat at the same table.
Yeah.
So like I can't say, but I'm going to be willing to. I'm about willing to bet the house on it that they are equally as dedicated as the open bodybuilders to achieving that goal, to being able to maintain and present that look on stage. I mean, they don't have as much muscle as an open bodybuilder. Some of them are not that far behind,
Yeah.
but like they may not have the muscle, but I do feel like the dedication factor is equally as high. You know, because when you're hungry at what you're doing, I mean, it's like take someone who plays golf. You know, he's not beating his body up the same way that a bodybuilder is, and he's not dieting the same way that a bodybuilder is, but he's putting in equally as much effort as he's trying to be like the Tiger Woods of golf. You know, they're all trying to be the Michael Jordan of bodybuilding. It doesn't mean just because it's a different style and a different form of effort doesn't mean it's less.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. I meant more so like having to walk up the stairs when you're 300 pounds and
Yeah,
like
that does become a little bit more taxing. I will say that, and I will say that the men's physique guys probably do have a lot better athletics. I don't think I know. I mean, that's just kind of common
yeah.
sense. I mean, you know, if you took a like an open pro and trained him for UFC for a year, and took a men's physique pro and trained him for UFC for a year, my money's probably going to be on the men's physique guy.
Yeah, for sure. Um, okay, so we have 4 listener questions. So the first one asks,
Keep going. I'm going to fill my water up real quick. I can still hear you.
oh yeah,
My
perfect.
sink's just right behind you.
Okay. The first question asks, what's more important, training or nutrition?
Um, Both are going to be equal, but if I have to put one over the other, it's going to be the training. And the
Yeah.
reason why is bodybuilding ultimately comes down to training. Like if your training is not right, whether like when you're at a rookie phase, you can just go to the gym and sling some weights around and you're going to put on some muscle. But when you're talking about an elite phase, if your training is not dialed in with your body, it doesn't matter whether it's a little bit of. I mean, you can do a good cut with shitty training, but if you're talking about actually growing muscle,
Yeah.
your training has to be first. Like there's going to be your gear. Well, yeah, I'm not saying gear is not a factor, but like again, if your training is not there and you don't have the proper stimulus to grow, you don't just take hormones and all of a sudden just build like slabs of muscle. You don't just eat the right foods and build slabs of muscle. There's got to be the stimulus, and the stimulus has to come first. So if your training is on point, next is going to come nutrition because you can have perfect training and perfect nutrition. Or sorry, you can have perfect training and a perfect cycle and have poor nutrition. You're going to see some results, but it's going to be nowhere near what you could see. And I think a lot of people are just satisfied with that, the fact that they got results. And
Yeah.
that's that way they can negate and say that diet's not that important. Like, yeah, I gained 20 pounds on my cycle and I was eating McDonald's every day. Yeah, you look like it too. Like, you know, I'm not trying to be mean, but yeah, you look like it. You gained 20 pounds, you got stronger, but like you really didn't add any quality to your physique.
For
So I feel
sure.
like it should go training, nutrition, and then enhancements after that. Whether that be over the counter or whether that be, you know, pharmaceutical, that's where the enhancements come into play because they are designed to supplement what you're already doing.
For sure. This question says, if I'm on 700, I'm not going to ask that question.
No, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. If I'm on 700 test, 300 EQ, and 5 IUs of GH, would you rather? I mean, it's just going to be like, it depends on the individual, but would you rather move the test and EQ up or the GH?
Um, so first off, like that wouldn't be how I would generally structure that cycle, but I would probably consider just again, not knowing who this person is, not knowing what they look like, not knowing what their labs look like. So let's just assume that they're putting in 100% effort. Let's assume that their labs are good. I would probably move the EQ up.
Okay. Yeah. I
You don't
have
want
you.
to move it. You don't want to move them up to the like where they're equal, like 700 and 700. That's not going to really. You're not going to feel very optimal on that because it's going to crush your estrogen levels completely.
Yeah.
So, but and also I feel like with the EQ, something that he's got to be mindful of. And again, if you're mindful of this, you'll be fine. Like it's going to produce a lot more red blood cells. So you have to take that into consideration. You know, there's supplements that you can use to counter that out. And there's obviously blood donations if you want to go that route. But like you can't just ignore it.
Yeah, for sure. I if I even go up above like a 2-to-1 ratio, like at 2-to-1, my estrogen is already in like the 20s, so like I cannot go any higher than that.
I don't think mine was that bad. I never really did. Mine was greater than 2 to 1 because at like a gram a test it's in like 600. So mine was not quite 2 to 1, but it almost was.
Almost, yeah. And yeah, and I was not doing a gram of tests, so that probably has a little bit to do with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're doing like 400 tests and 400 EQ, that's probably not going to be a good combination.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I've done it before, like for contest prep on people, but again, during contest prep, those last 4 weeks, if you're worried about your sex drive the last 4 weeks, I mean, I'm sorry, but like, you got to win the show. Like, I hate to say that to people, but like those last 4 weeks, that's probably going to be the last thing on your mind, regardless of what you're taking.
Yeah. I had a coach, he put me on like an off-season cycle, 800 tests, 600 EQ. And I checked my estrogen after a couple months and it was like 5. And like,
Ooh.
I was like thinking like I didn't have sex with my girlfriend for like months. And then I was like, oh, that's what it is. It was really,
Yeah, that's a bit harsh to have a level of 5.
yeah. And I didn't even know because like I didn't really know what the fuck I was doing. I was just trusting my coach. So I was like, whatever. But yeah. And also, wait, do you, I guess like a question on that, since he said, would you move up to 5 IUs of GH? I feel like I see like 6 is like the starting dose for like bodybuilding type results.
No, not necessarily, man. I'd probably keep it at 5. And I think that's people nowadays, like, I want to rewind a little bit, give people a little bit of history on this. So when I was competing, we didn't have the information available. These type of podcasts were not a thing. You read forum boards and you had to take people's word for it. When you hear about people getting up to 10, it was like, holy shit, he's using 10 IU. Like, oh my God, he's going to die.
Yeah.
Those were the type of like comments and reactions. And then out of the blue, you would hear about maybe like one guy using 15 plus. Like nowadays, I feel like that's a lot more common because one, the accessibility and the price have came way, way down.
Yeah.
So I'm just sitting here thinking out loud. This was my rationale. And, hey, I'm going to make sure I got to hold this to make sure it doesn't cut you off because I just heard it click. And this is like, if you tap it, it shuts the phone call off.
Oh, shit.
But no, so I remember, I think this was 2012 or 13. I know I was with Fakhri and I asked him about bumping the GH up because I had the money to do so. And he said, no, you don't need to. And I was thinking like, damn, like I wanted to, but I was like, he's never guided me wrong. So I was like, I'm going to leave it where it's at. Guess what? The results continue to follow. And I want to say it was like 4 to 6 range at that point. So I think as long as he's still continuing to progress, like you have to keep something in the tank. Like I always like to have the next card to use when it's ready to be used.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to just throw the whole deck at you and just say, well, you'll gain 40 pounds of muscle this year, and then that's pretty much the hype of your career. You're done.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. Okay, this person asked for your Increlex protocol. I have no experience with this, so.
Oh my God! Like people continue to ask about this, and I'm going to first off, can you tell before I answer the question? Can you tell like by the name, are they European or is this an American?
Hell,
Can you?
Let me see, because I put them on the dock, but I have it right here on my phone. Let me see. Now I'm curious too.
Yeah, I'll tell you why I'm asking once you if you can.
They look definitely American.
This is preaching to the choir on this. If they're from the U.S., I'm not saying it's impossible, but I have seen ever since I actually spoke about Increlex, I've gotten a lot of comments and like a lot of questions about it. And 90% of the shit you guys are getting is not real.
Yeah.
Like it's just that simple. You're spending probably upwards of $2,000. And if you're not spending $2,000 on it, you're probably not getting real stuff as well because it's expensive even in Europe. Like the closer you get to the source, cheaper it's going to be, right? And because the more times it changes hands, somebody's making money off that every single time. Nobody's going to get involved in an illegal business and not make money off of you.
Yeah.
So that being said, I feel like there's a small percentage, maybe like 5% chance that you can get real stuff, and you're going to have to be connected. You're not going to just hop on your local test suppliers list and see if he's got it.
Yeah.
It's not that easy. And if it is that easy, I would be highly questionable about the legitimacy of it. I remember whenever I wanted to use it, I was on about a 6-month wait list. And I was a top tier guy. And the guy knew who I was. And I knew who was in line in front of me to get it. Like, there was other top pros. Like, it was not fucking easy to get back then. And I can't imagine it to be any easier now.
Yeah.
Now, to answer his question, so hopefully I've discouraged the guy enough to realize he's probably just about to get ripped off on $2,000. Now, if he was in Europe, I feel like he's much more likely to get the real stuff.
Yeah.
Like, the boxes back then and the boxes of today have changed slightly. Like, the labeling is not the same from 10 years ago. And just for the record, whoever this is, don't send me a picture of your box. Do not DM me a picture of your box asking me if it's real. I don't want to fucking see it. I've gotten too many Increlex questions. I don't want to fucking see it. I will just delete it and go right on. Because one, I'm not trying, because I know one question leads to more, and I just simply don't have the time to sit there and go through this. But people, I feel like, overdo the shit out of this. So whenever I was doing Increlex, this is my own made up protocol, because you're not going to really find a lot of protocols online about it. If you read the pamphlet is in like 6 different languages, and one of them is English. I think it's from France, if I'm not mistaken, of where it's produced at. I'm reading this and I'm like, okay, because nobody told me how to use it. This is 2016. And I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? It's like, I got it, I acquired it, but like, how do I use it? Because it's 40 milligrams suspended at 4 milliliters. That's a lot of IGF.
Yeah.
So I'm looking and it says use X amount of milligrams per kilo of body weight. And I'm like, well, Jesus Christ, now I see why people think this is expensive. I mean, it's expensive to buy one, but it lasts a very long time. It's actually cheaper than GH, really, if you think about the duration that you're using it over. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, Jesus Christ. I mean, like, there's no way that someone could afford this or ever use it. And I realized, like, there's no way bodybuilders are using the dosage, because it's prescribed for, I have a feeling I'm going to get butchered for saying something politically incorrect here, but little people,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't know what.
GH.
Yeah. So that's what it's prescribed for, and that's not how bodybuilders need to be using it. Now, I will say, I know of a particular bodybuilder who was using like 2 milligrams daily of this.
Damn.
It didn't end well for him. That's not what caused the ending, but like, you can imagine, if a guy's using 2 milligrams a day of that, he's probably using a lot of other stuff in high amounts as well.
Yeah.
And it did not fare well for this person. So, and I didn't find this out till like probably 5-6 years after his career was even over. I didn't find that out because he lied to me about it. But I saw the direct text messages from someone else. But I looked at it like LR3. I think most of the LR3s on the market, I'll probably get people hating on me for saying this too, but I think it's all junk. I think it's all garbage. I don't think, because I've tried it, it didn't do shit for me.
Yeah.
And when you've tried Increlex versus LR3, you'll see what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, sit this conversation out, because you don't know. So I would do 100 micrograms. And at the time, if you read the pamphlet, it actually said something about it causing localized growth. So I'm like, okay, makes sense. That's why guys are doing like 50 here, 50 here, 50 here, 50 here, or whatever your dosage was. I was splitting it in half, and I was actually splitting it pre-workout. So it was immediately pre-workout along with appropriate amount of carbs. It's not the same as insulin in the sense, like, it's not going to tank your blood sugar as bad, but it will go down. I promise you, it will fucking go down. So like, I didn't even worry about that. Like, I literally I overdid the carbs because I was trying to grow, and I stayed lean enough that like I wasn't getting fat from it. So generally speaking, I would say I would have around 50, 60 grams of carbs pre-workout with the Increlex as well. And then I would have intra carbs and I would have post carbs. So like I had no issues with going hypo on it. But the pump that I got was uh so like have you used GH personally? If you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I'm on 7 right now.
Okay, so did you notice a difference in your pump when you added GH in?
Yeah.
Now just imagine if you could double that.
Holy shit.
That's kind of like where you're going to be at with that. It's like, say you're taking like test and EQ, you're getting a good pump, and then you throw anadrol into the mix, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to, obviously increase things a little bit. Essentially, this is just doing the same thing. No, it's not the same mechanism, not the same pathways at all. But what I'm saying is the effects you're going to feel from it, you're going to feel like pumped all the time. And like literally your warm up set, you're going to feel like, you're ready to rock and roll. So 100 was enough to make me grow at the rate that it did. And I see no reason why people, I mean, again, maybe I was a hyper responder, but and maybe you need 200 a day. But if you're going above 200 a day, like just get the fuck out of here. You're abusing it at that point.
Yeah.
Like I said, I know a guy who was using 2 milligrams a day, and that's just nonsense. Like you're asking for problems, and when you get them, I don't want to see a GoFundMe.
Yeah. And so did you notice like a localized, like obviously you noticed the localized pump, but what about in terms of growth? Like maybe after you stopped the Increlex, did you notice like actual tissue accrual?
The only thing is, whenever I discontinued the Increlex, my career was kind of stopped right after that as well. So it's kind of hard to say like, did certain areas shrink faster than others because I was downsizing at a rapid pace.
Hmm.
So I can't really answer that with any, real factual evidence on that. As far as site enhancement or site growth, I can't truly answer that one either. I know I got growth, but as far as like any particular area, I can't really say because I know I grew overall and I don't feel like I had a terribly unbalanced physique. And I just remember man, I never thought 10 years ago, I never thought I'd be saying this shit on a podcast. But here we are. Now it doesn't matter. But like, if I'm training arms that day, I would pick so if I'm doing keep in mind, I'm training twice a day at this point. So first bicep or first arm session of the week, maybe bicep. So the first one, an insulin pen goes to the bicep. Second one will go to the tricep. Then it may go, if I'm training shoulders twice that week, it may go front, side, rear. If I'm training back, it may be cut at the top of the lat, cut at the bottom of the lat. Now, you're not doing any weird shit back here, like to your mid back or your spine. That's retarded.
Yeah.
Like anyone that's putting a pin anywhere near their spine, I just have to laugh at you at that point. Like you're a brave man, but I'm going to laugh at you.
Yeah.
So whatever I was training that day, I just went with that protocol. So I can't really say I didn't just strictly use it on back day to see if it would give me back growth. And if I had to pick a body part, it probably would have been my back that I needed the most. But I was also chasing overall size. I don't think that my physique was so unbalanced that I needed to stop training arms or stop training shoulders or chest or anything. I just needed to continue putting a little bit more emphasis to back, really focus. And hell, I was probably lifting less weight too, because I finally learned my mind to muscle connection. I had a little bit of a lat injury when I was 15, and it kind of changed the trajectory of the next 5 to 7 years of how I trained back, which is, I blame that on why I didn't have the best back, because I wasn't training it properly. I was afraid of it at that point. So once I actually, got to the point where I was training back properly, it did start to come up and things was starting to look more matched and more balanced.
Okay. I see.
And a lot of guys, like I said, would use it for their limbs as well. But the thing is, I had dominant arms, dominant shoulders, and dominant calves. So it's like I didn't really need it for that.
Yeah.
If anything, it would have had to went to my back, but I'm only doing 2 back workouts a week, and I just felt like I've got 40 milligrams of Increlex here. I don't really just want to use 200 micrograms a week.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, this question says, opinions on dosing growth hormone pre-workout with insulin.
Without actually giving away the actual protocols that I use on this, yes, it's very effective. You need to know how to time your food properly, time your GH properly, time your insulin properly. You need to know how to match the carbs accordingly with that. And notice the sequence I said this in: food, GH, insulin. So there's your sequence, guys. Now, your timing and your protocol and your carbs, that's for you all to figure out on your own of what's going to work best for you. But that's the sequence, pre-workout meal and then so forth. But I do find it to be very effective. And it's kind of it's a method that's very highly overlooked, I feel like, in today's time. And I have had guys like literally tell me that, like, oh, it's too complicated. I'm like, you're taking the shots regardless, whether it be morning, midday. But like, if it's too complicated, I'm not going to argue with you because I don't know your lifestyle. Maybe you're sitting in an office with people around you. I don't know. So I'm not going to be like, hey, man, go run to the restroom and go do this. I'm not going to say that to someone.
Yeah,
So like sometimes we got to fit the protocol around your lifestyle.
for sure.
Or vice versa. Like if you're someone who works all day and you got to train at nighttime, the last thing I want to do is tell you to go take a shot of insulin, train, drink a shake, and go to bed. I don't feel comfortable telling anyone to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to stress the importance of finding your ratios. Because, like, for example, like I have a client who can do like 5 IUs of Humalog with like 260 carbs, and an hour later he'll be at like 70. So I just think you got it, depending on how lean you are, and I guess learn your body, but just start low for sure.
Yeah, and that's something that you mentioned that's important as well. Depending on how lean you are and where your insulin resistance is. So, like, say you establish a protocol today, doesn't mean that that's going to be the same protocol and your body's going to respond that same way forever.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I learned the hard way with that one time when I was cutting. I was doing high days when I was cutting, and then one day, like, the my dose was just way too much, and I was just like fucking hypoing all day.
I
Like at
had
some point.
two, I will say I had two encounters. Again, this was me tampering, playing with things with myself or playing things by myself. And I will say both, and anytime that I used insulin, whoever I was around knew that I was using it. And
Yeah,
I
for
made sure that they knew it just in case. The likelihood of something happening is I probably have a greater chance of getting struck by lightning, but I wanted those people to be aware that should something go south, you know who to tell and tell them what information.
yeah,
So the only time I noticed anything was like when I want to say first learned how to use insulin. Wasn't my first time using it, but my first time learning how to use it correctly. I started kind of pressing the threshold, and I'm like, okay, and this was Humalog too, nothing else, no R, no Lantus, none of that, just log. And I was like, okay, 8 did good, couple days. Let's try 9. Let's try 10. Let's try 11. Try 12, and so forth. And I got to a threshold. 15 was where my body wasn't really able to absorb the amount of carbs quick enough to basically match the level of insulin that's in my system of how quickly it hits you.
yeah,
So that was my absolute threshold. But when I say threshold, it was too much.
yeah,
I tried 18 one time because, again, I kept trying to tell myself, well, you can do more because I see these guys online that was talking about, again, the information was not available back then. I see these guys online talking about using crazy amounts. And I'm like, well, I'm doing baby shit. I'm using
yeah,
like, 5 and 5 or 10 and 10. These guys are talking about using 100 a day. Like, where the fuck are you putting this at? So I got up, I did 18. I remember I was 3 sets deep and I just immediately took the post workout shake, chugged it, and I said, I'm done. I'm
yeah,
not pushing this. I'm not dropping in the floor today. I went there and I sat on the couch and I didn't do shit for about an hour. I
yeah,
sat there in the gym and I just talked to people and I felt fine. Then I left. I was like, I'll just have to write this off as a day.
yeah,
I started noticing like I was sweating so profusively just doing leg extensions. Like it was like I feel like I dropped 2 pounds of water with like just warm up sets. Like
yeah,
it was that bad. I'm like, okay, you're never doing this shit again. So I backed it off. 12 seemed to be the right marker for me. So
yeah,
again, and just because I did 12 during that time doesn't mean I can do 12 during contest prep.
yeah,
That's a whole different story because my second encounter was just exactly that. I tried that and I wanted to see, again, this was me experimenting when I was younger. I just wanted to see like how much insulin versus how low of carbs can you do and get away with this. And I actually dropped my blood glucose a little bit too low. And I remember sitting at the table and I think I was about a 50% ratio. So like say like 50 carbs for 10 units of insulin.
mm,
and that's pretty low.
That's
That's on the
pretty
low
low.
side. Or I may
Yeah.
have went to even 40 carbs.
Damn.
Like it was kind of low. And because I had tried, I started at 100, then 90, then 80, then 70, and fine, and 60, and fine. When I got on that 50 marker, I'm sitting there again. Everyone that was around me knew. So that way, like if something went wrong, you can always, ask for a little bit of help. Because it's not like you're not just gonna be like laughing and dead.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't work like that. My sister's a diabetic, and like she knows when you know when your insulin, your glucose is changing. Your body's telling you. And I remember sitting there at the table, and I remember looking at my hands. My hands are shaking, and I was not using any stimulants or nothing. And I remember like sweat was coming off my face. I kind of, and it happened quick too. Like within a matter of like 90 seconds, all this started happening. And I'm like, and I look up, at my ex, and I'm like, hey, and she looks over at me and she realized immediately. And I was like, give me some snacks now. And I just started eating. I probably ate like 200 grams of carbs. And I was fine after that. But then I was like, you know what? This is all fucking stupid shit. This is what, like, people need to realize, like, these trials and tribulations have already been done by people in the past. Like, there's no reason for guys to be doing this today. That was a very stupid thing that I did,
Yeah.
like, to be able to try that. So, like, I'm not condoning anyone do it. So just take it from personal experience from a guy who's already been there and done that. Don't do that shit. Don't put yourself hypo on purpose. Don't attempt just to see what your threshold is. And I didn't have a coach at the time. I was learning myself at that time. So it's not like someone told me to do that. I took that up on myself to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
But on the flip side, though, I feel like it's still a lot safer. I'm not condoning one over the other. It's still a lot safer when I see guys running like 5 grams of test in today's time. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing with that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like everyone that comes to me since they're like young, like I'll just have to like titrate their doses down, titrate their insulin down. But honestly, most of it, what it is like really popular on social media is like using GH and insulin. So like all these guys will come to me and they'll be in like good body composition, but they'll be super insulin resistant because they just have to keep titrating up their insulin dose as they like progress, and they're doing it every single day. And I'm like, man, that's not how you want to go about
I've
it.
got 1 or 2 guys right now that I'm going to have to like pull back because of that exact same situation. They're not younger guys. I think they were just more so misguided.
Yeah. No, all of it is just like because like it's just social media, and then they'll pick up like some random coach on social media who just like is just giving them protocols without knowing like anything about them or what they're doing. And it's like, yeah, just use insulin for every meal every single day, and then they instantly are like pre-diabetic in like 4 months. So
Yeah, and that's like I said, there's 2 guys that I have right now that I'm going to have that conversation with because I started noticing, the numbers is not really correlating with what I would expect them based on the diet because they're
yeah.
not eating a ton of food. So like I was cool with the longer acting insulin, and their GH is not high either, but
Mhm.
like they're very, very sensitive to this. So it's going to be a time where we're going to have to let off the gas and we're going to have to do a lot of resetting.
Yeah, for sure.
There's gonna be a lot of little. I'm gonna just call it metabolic programming for a lack of better terms.
Yeah, throw some hit in there.
Yeah,
Um,
there's well, not just from a cardio standpoint. There's gonna be a lot of dietary changes that's gonna have to take place as well.
yeah, for sure. Um, okay, so first off, I just want to thank you for your time, and it was great talking to you. And I know like a lot of my clients are like super excited to see this podcast, and they were like so excited that I was having Compton on. So I want to thank you for that. But for my last question, I like to, since my audience is younger, I like to ask the pros, the people who've done it for a long time, a similar question, which is for all the younger people who are getting into bodybuilding and maybe the enhanced side of things, what is like some advice that you would give to them starting out?
Oh man, like I feel like 10 years ago this question was very very easy to answer, but because nowadays there's so much bad advice out there, like find someone who produces results on stage, like not the lifestyle coaches. Well, it depends. I guess maybe if you are a lifestyle guy, then find someone who's replicated the results that you want and has done it with multiple clients. Don't pick that coach who has 2 elite clients and they continue to repost those same 2 elite clients, and if they got this lavish lifestyle. So if they have this lavish lifestyle, but you only see 2 to 3 clients. It means you know there's a lot of lower tier clients that's actually funding that lifestyle. They're
Yeah.
not posting about those. And there's a reason why that is. It's because they don't actually know what the fuck they're doing with those level people. Find a guy who has good, consistent results across the board. And I could sit here and name 20 people right off the top of my head. I'm not going to, but I could easily name 20 off the top of my head that has had the results that you're looking for, and they're doing it consistently with different people, not the same guy over and over. And then think about hiring one of those people. You may have to plan your budget, but again, the only reason I say that is I felt like 10 years ago I would have been able to say, be consistent, look at the information online. But nowadays the information online is
It's garbage.
it's either here or it's here across the spectrum. You have some people be like, oh, 300 milligrams of test is all you need. Then you have guys like, no, you need a minimum of 4,000. I'm like, no, fuck. Like I don't even know like I don't get engaged in those conversations anymore,
Yeah.
or I try not to, because it's just worthless trying to preach it to people when they've already got like an opinion established in their head. Because changing someone's opinion on something is very, very difficult to do. Even when they got like scientific, factual studies in front of them, it's still hard to change someone's opinion. So my best recommendation for someone who's just getting started, they're not well educated, they don't have. See, I had someone in my corner when I was a teenager who had been there and done that on everything I wanted to do. So, and he was giving me what I would call, even in today's time, I would call very conservative advice, and it worked very well. He didn't give me any stupid advice. But if you're someone who don't have access to that, maybe you live in a small town, or like maybe there is elite bodybuilders in their gym, but they're still giving you the wrong advice. Find someone that you can look up to as a coach, someone that I'm going to say is not your friend. And the reason I want to say it's not your friend, you don't want to necessarily. I'm actually friends with a lot of my clients, but we all know the difference between that friend boundary and that coach boundary. So it's just like when I say, hey man, this is what has to be done. Like that's the point where I'm not your friend anymore. I'm your coach, and I'm telling you, this is where shit's got to get real. And it doesn't mean that I'm being mean to you. You hired me for a job, right? And I'm just getting that job done. So find someone who it's not already your friend, or someone that you're trying to be friends with, someone that you feel like you can trust. He has put good results on the table for clients, and also check the failure rate too. When I say check that failure rate is, again, when you see like 2 or 3 clients getting posted, but yet they got their fancy ass sports cars and their big houses and their boats or whatever. It's like, where did that money come from? So there's obviously a high failure rate that you're just not seeing online, right? So you got to take that into consideration. And also, I mean, hell, today's time, DM their clients. I've had many people come to me before. They're like, hey, man, I reached out to a couple of your clients, and this is what they said. I'd like to sign up with you. Fucking DM their clients.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? I mean, it's getting a personal reference at that point, right? Think about, like, as an employer, like if I wanted to hire you, I want to call your previous boss to see what kind of guy is this person? What am I getting myself into? Like, I don't like, at first I used to be like, man, you're DMing my clients. What the hell are you doing? I'm like, wait a minute, no. He's doing his due diligence. And I'm glad that they are. So like DM any client of, like, whether it be if you want to hire me, DM my clients. You can DM the guys that's compete at the local level or the guys that's compete at the pro level. Doesn't matter to me. You're going to get probably a similar response from both of them. But if it's another coach, do the same thing. Do your homework on them and just be like, hey, does he take your health into consideration? How often is his feet, or like look into like response time as well, because I find that's a big problem in today's coaching community. Like if it takes a coach 5 days to answer simple questions, there's something wrong with that. But there is also that boundary though, where like whenever it's not busy season, and right now it's busy season, so my phone is pretty much available 7 days a week. Now around October to about February, I have to give myself a mental break, and I try to condense everyone Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So if you're hitting me up on a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, when I've made that clear that I take those days off, I probably won't get back to you on those days. But I also am not taking on new clients during that time. So if you're a new client, hit me with whatever questions you have. And if I'm taking 5 days to get back to you, you should probably fire me. Like, just being fair. It doesn't take 5 days to get back to a new client. Like if you're an established client, you've been with me for 5 years, and you're asking me the difference between iodized salt and Himalayan salt, I'm going to be like, okay, I'll get back to you when I get back to you. Like I got bigger fish to fry here, right? But response time is important. How well they take your health into consideration, and you can already see the results because that should be already posted on their Instagram page. And then, personality wise, that's a whole different thing because everyone clicks differently with people. And I don't know if I've not clicked well from a personality wise standpoint with people because like I'm not someone that tries to argue or defend or anything. And like, because I've taken other people's clients that came to me and I've had my clients go to other people. Most of the time, I don't ask why because you've already made up your mind. You've already made your decision. Maybe it was a personality thing. I don't know. But I feel like as far as communication, health, I've taken all that into consideration. So maybe you just want to expand your knowledge. And I have a guy that, as a matter of fact, oh, no, it's not there anymore. I guess I took it off. I used to have his wedding date thing posted on my fridge. So I sent him a wedding gift. But like he literally said he wanted to just try some different methods, and we had no harm, no foul. Like we still talk, we're still friends. Everything's all good to go. He just wanted to try different methods. And I hate to say it, turns out it backfired on him. I would still take him back on, but like from the recent showing, it backfired in his face. But nonetheless, he tried a different method. It didn't work, but I think he's also planning to become a coach himself. And he's literally doing kind of what I did. He never really asked me a lot of why questions, but like I could just tell he was very observant as to why I was making changes and how it was reflecting on his physique. And I could tell in his feedback as well, he's taking note to all this, which is a good thing because it's going to make him a better bodybuilder. And then when he does decide to become a coach, he's going to have a hell of a knowledge base starting out as well.
For sure.
So it's do your due diligence with your coach because there's a lot of bullshit out there. And again, if they haven't produced the results on table, don't hire them. Or if you see this thing, it's like $99 a month. I'm sorry, but like no elite coach is going to be doing your plans for $99 a month. It's just not that it's not how it works in today's time. So now if you see some guy trying to charge you $1,000 a month, okay, that's a bit excessive too, right? Find your price point, but also realize like cheaper is not always better, and sometimes more expensive is also not always better.
Yeah.
So again, there's a lot of factors, a lot of variables that play into it. But my biggest thing is just do the due diligence on it. Ask as many questions to him, but you got to realize when you're talking directly to the coach, like hypothetically, if you ever ask me, like, have you ever had a failure? Most coaches are going to say no. Nope, never had a failure. I have had 2 failures. And when I say failures, I don't mean like health complications, but like I had a peak that like, we were talking about Joe's peak. I don't consider that like the failure because I was able to figure that out. Well, we were able to figure that out. But I have had 2 instances over, I don't know about, I've been full-time coaching for around 10 years, but I was part-time coaching about 5 years prior. So I would say I got 15, 17 years of experience in that range. So yeah, because I took my first client in 2011. So I've had 2 moments where I said, what the fuck happened? Just what the fuck happened? And I've coached well over 1,000 people at this point. So I would consider my failure rate, to me, that's a failure. When you can't figure, like you're not going to nail it every single time with every single client. No coach ever does. Yeah. I mean, look at Hani Rambod. He didn't nail it with Derek, when Derek lost the Olympia, he's considered the best coach, but he didn't nail Derek 100%. So everyone is not going to be 100%. But like if you can't figure out where you went wrong at, that's where I consider that to be a failure. And I have had 2 of those. And I feel like most people will not have the courage to admit that, when in reality, they give you a bullshit spill as to why it went wrong. But like, I didn't blame my clients for it. I didn't say, well, you fucked up and you did this and you did that. No, because I trusted them. And I did ask questions. Like I definitely said, hey, did you do this? Did you do this? And all the boxes checked out. So at that point, it's like, what the fuck went wrong? And I just flat out admitted to him. And I just said, like, I genuinely don't know. This is the first time I've ever actually encountered this. And I think because I was able to admit that and just admit that like I was wrong in that case, I'm still friends with both of these guys to this day. It's not one of those things. I didn't gaslight them and tell them that their gear was fake. Yeah. I didn't gaslight them and say, I know you're cheating on your diet. because I genuinely believed in them and something somewhere did not go right. And that's two. So what would that be? It'd be like 0.2% failure rate.
Yeah.
So less than a half of a percent, I would consider my rate to be good. But you're not going to get that. You're not going to get many people that's going to tell you that. Most people is going to tell you it's 0% failure.
Yeah.
So that's why I say reach out to the clients directly. That's
Yeah.
where you're going to get your most honest answers at. Better yet, scroll back like 2 years. That's where it gets interesting because oftentimes people don't stay with a coach for 5 to 10 years. Like, for example, I feel like if you were to reach out to Joe, me and Joe have been together for like about 5 years now. I can't imagine Joe's going to say anything negative because we're still working together. But if you reach out to someone from 5 or 6 years ago on my page, they're like, hey, I know you work with Justin. How did that work? There you're going to have the most clear cut, blatant, honest answer because we're no longer, if we're no longer working together, he has no reason to say anything nice or he has no reason to be nice or mean. He's going to give you the honest truth. And I
Yeah.
feel like for someone that's looking for a coach, that's how I would go about doing it in today's time.
For sure. And I also will say with a lot of high level coaches, like you might not get the attention that you want as like a local guy. But I'm actually friends with a lot of Justin's clients, and I know from them like they're local guys, like not big names, and I know that he gives like all the attention the same to all his clients. So
Yeah, that's kind of been my motto from the beginning. And I'm not trying to, I know a lot of people's going to connect the dots on this really, really quickly, but I'm not going to name drop on this. There was a particular coach that would take like five, 5 days, 7 days, 10 days to get back to people. He would respond to his elite clients instantly. But the local level guys, the ones that are actually paying his bills and actually supporting his lifestyle, and the only reason I know this is I gave the referrals. I gave the referral. I'm like, hey, try this guy out. And then I'd be like, hey, dude, he hasn't responded to me in like 10 days. And I'm like, what the fuck? Because it made me feel kind of bad at that point. I'm like,
yeah.
well, and it is what it is at that point. I obviously stopped giving referrals there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching, and Justin, thank you again for your time.
Yep, absolutely, man. Have a good afternoon.
All right, you too.